everybody. Let's do this. Here we go!
Hello Musketeers, welcome to Mondays with Mickey. My name is Mike Knigge and I am your host, and this week we're going to take a minute to talk about dining reservations at the Walt Disney World Resort. Now, as you all know, we are going in September, and as we hit major milestones in our preparation and planning process, we want to take a minute and talk about those things so that way hopefully it'll give you guys some ideas and things, at least put ideas, thoughts in your head, so as you're planning your trip, you can kind of have a heads up as to what you're walking into kind of situation. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, 180 days out, that's a really long time out to make dining reservations for anywhere you go. And you know what? I mean, how are you going to know what you want to eat in 6 months? And you know what? You're absolutely right. 180 days is really tough. But I'll be honest with you, at Walt Disney World, for table service restaurants, 180 days is absolutely necessary. Okay, and even us, we're pretty seasoned. We go regularly. We run into issues with booking things that far out, but it is very necessary. Example: my first trip to Walt Disney World, we made classic mistakes that most people make. In fact, we made a lot of classic mistakes that most people make. One of those is dining. We didn't book squat. We thought, oh, it's probably just like any other restaurant in the world. We just, we'll go show up that day, get on a waiting list. We'll be a walk up. We'll get in. It might take a half hour, but we'll get in. Not a big deal. No. Mm-mm. Most table service restaurants book up fast and well in advance. I mean, if you think about it, say a restaurant holds, I don't know, we'll be generous. Let's say the restaurant holds 800 people. Well, there are thousands of people in the Magic Kingdom at any given time. Thousands. And we're not even talking like in the single-digit thousands. Thousands and thousands of people. And there's only so many table service restaurants. And that goes for most of the parks. Granted, Epcot's its own little beast. And you have a better chance of walking up at Epcot. But not for the really popular restaurants. So, when we went the first time, we started finding out everywhere we wanted to go was booked up. We couldn't get in anywhere. We couldn't even use our table service credits because all the table service restaurants were filled up. And it became a real source of frustration for us because we didn't realize that you had to book that far in advance. We were trying to plan as we go. We were trying to, do things on the fly, which it's a very admirable idea. But these days, the parks are too busy for that. You just can't. You have to plan in advance. So, that trip, I think I ended up calling Walt Disney World, after we got back to our room after the first night, we got really burned on table service reservations and started trying to book things over the coming days, which I was able to because people had canceled things and whatnot. But it really made things difficult for us, and we did end up wasting some of our table service credits, which, by the way, that's money. We started wasting table service credits on quick service because we just couldn't afford it. Or we just couldn't afford to not use them in some degree. So, advanced dining reservations. They become available at 180 days, and they're absolutely necessary. Now, there are three major ways to book your dining reservations. I'm going to go through the first two, and then I'm going to tell you the one you probably should do. All right. The first thing you can do is you do it through your My Disney Experience app. Now, that's great for on-the-fly reservations. It'll be great for, fast pass reservations and things like that. And there will be an episode later where we talk about My Disney Experience and all the things you can do with it. Help demystify it. But you can book dining reservations through there. Another option, which is what I think a lot of people use, is online. Now, online is kind of like My Disney Experience. You pick your dining reservations piecemeal, okay? And you basically have to check out for each one. Now, let's back up slightly. At 180 days, 7 a.m. at 180 days, you can be 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States. Walt Disney World time. You can start booking your dining reservations. Now, you can start with your app. The app allows you to pick them individually. And, you have to type in your credit card, because you have to reserve it on your credit card. And you get a confirmation. It takes you all through this whole process on each individual reservation. Now, if you're trying to get hard to get reservations, do those first. If you're going to do it online, get those first. I don't care if they're midway through the week when you're planning on going, get those first. And yeah, keep in mind, before you even get to this, before you even get to the 180-day mark, start thinking about where you want to eat and think about what parks you're going to be in each day. All right. Look at the calendars for the hours of the parks leading up to your trip. You don't want to try to book a dining reservation and find out that Magic Kingdom closes early that night. That's something we actually had to deal with. Because we're going in September, there's a Christian concert, 2 nights, the week before we go. And then you've got all the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween parties. So there's several nights where Magic Kingdom closes early. And if we didn't know that, we may have spun some wheels trying to book a later dining reservation on a day the park closed early. Or, worse yet, we would have chosen to go to the park on a day that it closed early, not realizing it, and got a slightly earlier reservation, like a 5:30 reservation, which would still be allowed even if the park's closing at 6 o'clock for regular guests. And we would have booked a dining reservation on a day that we didn't want to be at Magic Kingdom. So that's where I should really start. Before 180-day mark, you need to really look at the calendar and decide what days you want to be at what park. And then decide what restaurants and what park you want to be in. Which ones you want to try out. So once you figure that out, 7 a.m. at 180 days, you can start booking. If you do it online or through the app, you got to do it piecemeal. You got to pick individual restaurants and go through this whole process, reading all the disclaimers and how long before you have to cancel, before you get your money back and all that jazz. That takes time. It works just fine. It's a very valid way to do it. But if you're going to do it that way, because it takes time, if you know you've got some hard to get dining reservations like Be Our Guest, Le Cellier, Cinderella's Royal Table, restaurants like that, go ahead and book those first. Even if it's at the end of your week, book those first. Because, again, you're doing it piecemeal, and you're not the only one who's trying to book these reservations. So you want to get the hard ones first, and then worry about the easier ones. In fact, let's go ahead and talk about that. Restaurants that are really hard to get. Le Cellier, Cinderella's Royal Table, Be Our Guest. These are unique dining experiences. They're all 2 table service credit reservations, and they're tough to get. Frequently, your most difficult ones to get tend to be 2 table service. Ohana can be a little dicey sometimes to get, but it's not 2 table service credits. So what I would recommend doing is, if you're not sure about a restaurant, whether it's really hard to get or not, you can research it online via like Google or YouTube. Send me a message. I'll be happy to let you know about how difficult this reservation is to get and whether you need to make that a first strike, if you will, for booking. But, do your research. Try to figure out, 1, whether you want to eat these places or not, and 2, how difficult it is. Because if it is difficult and you're going to book online or book through the app, you need to do those guys first. Now, the way I would recommend booking your dining reservations is through Disney directly over the phone. I believe it's 1407 WDW Dine is the phone number to call up and book your dining reservations at Walt Disney World. You can pull up any Walt Disney World phone number and they can direct you there if you don't have, if for some reason it's not working. But Walt Disney World opens, the lines open at 7 a.m. So Eastern Standard Time, United States. So I would highly recommend having your butt up like 6:50 and ready to hop on that phone by 7 a.m. What we did was we booked at 7 a.m. I was there. I was wide awake. I had all my reservations. What time? Not necessarily what times exactly we wanted to be at these restaurants, but time frames and what days and how many people I was taking with me. And I just called Disney and said, "Hey, look, I need. We just hit our 180-day mark. I'd like to try to book my reservations." And guess what? I got them all. And the cool part about doing it over the phone is, rather than doing it piecemeal, one at a time, you do them all at once. That process I was talking about, where they talk about all the disclaimers and how long you have to cancel your reservation, blah, blah, blah. They wrote all that into one spiel at the end of booking all of them. So rather than having to go through it each and every single time, which takes time, you can do them all at once, and it's over. All right, so what we did was, I went down the line day by day by day. This is where we want to go this day. This is where we want to go this day. Where we want to go this day. And then they recommended times to me. I said, "Oh, you want dinner for this day? All right, well, here's some time frames for that day. Which one would you like?" We picked them. And it worked out perfectly. And honestly, I think it's the best road to go, particularly if you're going to try to book a bunch of really difficult, especially if you're going to try to book a bunch of difficult reservations. That is the road to go. Talk to Disney directly. Get them all done in one batch. Doesn't take that long to get it done. It's more time effective, and you can kind of move on the fly a little better when you're talking to them directly. Especially, say, if thing is booked up, you can maneuver a little better, if you're talking to them directly on the phone. The other two ways are perfectly valid, but if you're looking for quick, easy, and you got a lot of reservations to book, like for us, we're staying for we have 7 days worth of food. So that's 7 table service reservations I had to make. If I had done those piecemeal one at a time, chances are I wouldn't have gotten the times I got, because it would have taken forever to get through them over the internet or over the app. I got them all done within like 10 minutes. Poof, out of the way, knocked out. And then later I just went back online into my Disney Experience account, and I just went ahead and changed, because what they did is they just said, "Oh, Mike plus 4 other people." So the only name on my reservation was me. But what you can do is you can go back into your My Disney Experience account and assign names to each of those slots. So we actually have another couple that's coming with us. Through My Disney Experience, we invited them to come eat with us. And I invited them to join my party. So what I could do is I can go back and, I've got 5 slots. I can plug in not only my family's names, but the other couple that's coming with us, I can plug their names in because they accepted my invite. And so now all my dining reservations, all 5 of us are linked in, which is fantastic. Even though they're not, the other couple's not on my reservation, they're linked to my reservation, so I can put their names in, which simplifies things if there's any questions about who's coming or whatever at the restaurants. So, my personal suggestion definitely is the phone. It makes it simpler. And you can get a lot done at one time. Now, what happens if, say, maybe you're running a little late or something's super popular and you don't get it? Don't freak out. This is where the internet does come in handy. Last trip we went, we couldn't get a dinner reservation for Be Our Guest. Now, it was back when it was 1 table service. Now it's 2, so we're not worried about it this time. But we really wanted a dinner reservation for Be Our Guest because we wanted to see Beast. We really wanted to have that full dinner experience. So we're trying to figure that out. So what we did was we didn't get dinner. We did get a lunch, which was great, but we wanted dinner. So every day or every few days, I'd pop on and see if there was an opening. See if somebody canceled. No one ever canceled, really. And it became really, as we're getting closer to the trip, we're like, oh, well, this is probably not going to happen. Kept all my reservations in place. I figured worst case scenario, if I luck out and I get it, then I just cancel another reservation and poof, we have what we wanted. So as we got closer, I realized, wait a minute. Once we get to the payoff date, the payoff time frame, people are going to cancel their reservations because maybe they couldn't rummage up the money, or something happened, something popped up, and they're canceling their reservations at the last second to make sure they get all their money back. And I realized, wait a minute, if they have to cancel their reservations for Disney, then they'll have to cancel their dining reservations. I wonder how many of those people have Be Our Guest reservations. So I waited till the day, that cancellation, that day, the last day to pay. And then the next morning, when everyone would have canceled by the night before, if they're going to cancel, I checked it, and guess what? The exact reservation we wanted, the exact time frame, exact day was open. So what happened was somebody, for some reason, couldn't go on the trip, couldn't pay it off, or something happened. And when they canceled their trip, they canceled the dining reservations because, of course, they don't want to get charged for not showing up for the dining reservation. And we had an opportunity. So the moral of the story is, if you don't get the dining reservation you want, don't worry about it. Go ahead and book your Plan B reservations. What you want to do if you can't get it. And then just keep checking back. You never know when something might open up. And then all you got to do, as long as you've got 24 hours notice, I think a couple of restaurants are 48 hours notice, but for the most part, it's 24 hours notice. Just call up, cancel the reservation you don't need. Well, book the reservation you want first, so that way you don't lose it. Then cancel the reservation you don't need. Now, in order to book dining reservations, I mentioned that there was a credit card involved earlier. You will have to put it on your credit card or debit card or whatever. They do not charge your card. The only time they will charge that card is if you don't show up for your dining reservation, and you get your cancellation fee charged to the card. I think it's like $10 a person or something like that. So, first off, don't not show up for your dining reservation. Secondly, if you can't do it, try to cancel it as soon as possible so you don't get burned with a fee. But remember, the card won't be charged unless there is a fee involved. Or unless you decide while you're eating dinner, instead of using my dining plan, I'm going to pay for it out of pocket. Which is totally cool. They'll do it. But, particularly with table service restaurants, think about it before you do it. Some of those table service restaurants are expensive. So, that's the bulk of dining reservations for Walt Disney World. All right. Key things to take away are booking dining on the fly or going and trying to be walk-ups on restaurants is a dangerous, dangerous thing to try. Sometimes it works out, but most of the time it doesn't, particularly if the park is busy. Advanced dining reservations are the way to go. And while you're planning for your advanced dining reservations, you want to look at that calendar on Walt Disney World's website showing, park times. If you see Magic Kingdom or one of the parks closing early for some reason, that probably denotes a special event, or like Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, or that concert series, or something of that nature where the park is closing, and maybe, unless you're going to that event, maybe that day is not the best day to book a to even visit that park. Let's go to another park and plan our dining reservations. Now, one thing about that calendar, and I'm going to warn you because unfortunately it's a reality. When you hit your 180-day mark, your week will not be visible. In fact, your first day will be visible when you go to book your dining. And that's it. So pay close attention to the weeks prior and look at Walt Disney at the park hours for the week prior. What we did is the day before we went and booked, at 181 days. We pulled up the calendar and we looked up at the previous week's hours leading up as close to our trip as possible, so we can get the closest hours to what our week was going to look like. And ours was a little wonky because I said that Christian concert series was happening in Magic Kingdom, which really threw off the calendar. But, we were able to kind of approximate what days we were going to be at what park and why. We try to ride our extra magic hours as much as possible. So that plays a big role in deciding what, day we're at what park. And once we nailed down what days we're going to be at what park, it made it easier to figure out what we want to do food-wise. So pay close attention. For us, the day before was enough because we'd already been talking about it. But maybe the week before, especially if you're new to this, pull up the calendar and start looking at it. There is an easier process. It's very helpful. It's not for everybody. It is free for everybody, but it's not for everybody, especially if you're like me and you really like to have kind of control over everything dealing with your trip. But there is the option of going through travel agents or Disney trip planners and things like that. Travel agents, they get a commission from Disney to help you with your trip and help you plan. And they will do this whole process for you if you let them. They'll check your calendars. They'll tell you what would be best days to go to different places. They'll recommend best days for you to go in places. They will call up and book your dining reservations for you for the most part. They'll book your fast passes for you. They'll do everything for you if you want that taken off your shoulders and put in somebody else's hands. For me, I like doing it myself. I don't know if it's a sense of pride, accomplishment, whatever. I like having control of my trip personally, and that's why I do it for myself personally. And that's actually why I used to be a travel agent and why I would help other people, because I like doing it. I like making it happen and playing the games and knowing all the tricks and ins and outs. But if that's not your thing and you just want this to be easy, this whole process can be simplified by talking to a travel agent and going that road. If not, I'm happy to help you with any information you may need. So feel free to ask me questions, shoot me a message. I enjoy doing this stuff, so I'm happy to help you do it yourself if you like. I hope this video has been somewhat informative. It wasn't just complete rambling and nonsense. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, hit the thumbs up. Feel free to please subscribe. I'd love to have more people watching me on a regular basis. It definitely makes me feel better that we're doing helping other people out there. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to leave you as I leave you every single week. I hope we never lose sight of one thing. This was all started by a mouse. Thank you again so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.